Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of
Stream
Streams. Actually, I should do
Kings.
this
Why did you do that?
because we're talking about the 2015 film Mad Max,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's what the War Boy. Actually, I think it's four. That's what they do. They're like,
I don't think that's what it's like.
it's either four or three. I can't remember. I think it's four.
You were
It's
like,
four.
we're talking about Mad Max.
It is four because it stands for a V8 engine. So that's what. Yeah. So I thought that was a little fun fact. But anyway, so your boys, MoneyMike, Danny D, back at it again, talking about the 2015 film Mad Max. So just numbers as we always start us off. So
We love a good
I
numbers
do,
segment.
yeah. It's one of my favorites. It's the one I do at the very last second, but I like it. Um,
It's the one I prepare for the least.
so this movie is a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, this might be our highest rated Rotten Tomatoes movie. I can't remember where Ghostbusters was. It was up there,
Yeah,
but maybe.
Alien might be. Let's see.
Ooh, yeah.
I'll do some research. You do the numbers. I'll see what
Okay.
we got.
Actually, I got it right here. 93% is Alien.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, I think so. And then Ghostbusters was 95. So, yeah, this is our highest rated Rotten
Okay.
Tomatoes movie that we've done so far. And we always say this, Rotten Tomatoes, not the end all be all, but I think definitively, like this one, this lives up to it. This is an incredible movie.
It is a very good movie. Yeah, and I also another word. I don't any if we cite any critical sites on here, it's not because we necessarily agree or disagree with them, but
Yeah,
they're good for like, you know, averaging viewers. If this
yeah.
were at like a 32, we could confidently say a lot of people did not like this movie. But at
even
a
if
97,
even if I love it, like
right?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that we're probably not gonna do Master of Disguise ever on our podcast, but because that one's like a 3%, and that movie just straight up sucks. So I don't think we're gonna
It
talk about
didn't it didn't suck when I was little
it.
and
You're
I
right.
saw it.
Little turtly, too turtly for the turtle man. That does still make me laugh to this day. So there's something to be said even for the poorest
Right.
of reviewed movies out there. So.
Hmm.
But this movie made 100. Well, okay, so this is another one of those like accounting errors, which I still would like to know questions about. The budget for this movie was between 154 and 185. Like that's $30 million. Like if I'm an accountant, which I'm not, if my numbers are not correct in a $30 million, there are problems. But it made up for it. It made 380 million in the box office. So
Right.
definitely a very well performing movie. Currently streaming on Max. That's where I watched it. I was called out by a friend for saying where the last movie was streaming. I accidentally said Prime and definitely wasn't. It was Paramount Plus. So trying to make sure that I'm recommending
Yeah,
correctly.
yeah. Trying to make sure that we get the whole basis for our podcast right when we're doing it. It's the one thing
It's
that gives
literally the
people
baseline.
movies that they can stream. If we don't give them the right service, what are we doing this all for?
Technically, you could stream it there, but you have to pay $3.99 to rent it. It's like that's not our goal when we're talking about
And
this.
and well, I guess technically you can subscribe to Paramount Plus through your Prime subscription.
So really, I was correct, is what you're saying.
In a manner of speaking.
Oh goodness. All right. So starting this off a little bit differently today. So it is streaming on Max. So there was some news that came out, I believe it was yesterday, maybe the day before, where Max was going to be it's a big deal between Disney and Warner Media with a new streaming platform that's going to be including three main, so Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max. So Dan, just wanted to just chat a little bit. Like, what are your thoughts on like streaming bundling, and stuff like that? Like, what's this is kind of this is big because this is
Hmm.
two of like the biggest media giants getting together to create a streaming service.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't know a lot about, we have you and I have friends, and you even would know more about it than I do, who really like and are interested in like the dynamics and like the math and all that behind like streaming services and the
Hmm.
business side. And I don't necessarily know a lot about it. But on the other hand, it's like that makes me in a sense like a casual user, you know? And so on the one hand, I guess I enjoy the fact that like I won't have to subscribe to 4 or 5 different services. Now I have
Hmm.
access to those all three at one time.
Right.
However, then sometimes they start adding ads, and sometimes the the prices go up.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah.
and so at some point it's like, yeah, I have all this together, but then like once I've got it, then it's like they've kind of got me, you know.
Yeah, 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 and I think, like, you're talking a lot about price, and I think, like, that, when streaming first became big, like, when Netflix was really, like, coming on scene with as really the only streaming option that I knew of anyways,
Right.
that like, their big selling point was, like, you can get everything, like, right here, outside of your regular network, cable TV, everything like
Hmm.
that, and now, like, everybody has a streaming service, and I
Hmm.
think the market's very saturated, and I think it's interesting, like, like the price is going to go up for all of these services. I mean, you look at, I think the Disney Plus bundle with ads, I think is $15, and or without ads, I think is 15. And then the Max bundle without ads is also 15. So it's like, I mean, even if they give you a discount, it's going to be like $25 for streaming movies. And it's
Hmm.
like, and TV shows. And we're getting closer and closer because that's just like three, you got Paramount Plus, you got Amazon
Right.
Prime.
And like I said, I enjoy, I guess, the idea of having all those there. But if you really sit me down and ask me, I use Max way more than I use Disney Plus or Hulu.
Same.
So it's like, are you telling me now I have to get Disney Plus and Hulu just to get Max?
Yeah, which I didn't look into it that deeply to know. Like, I hope that there are options where you don't have to, where you can
Right.
still do just a standalone service. But
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So, still TBD. Don't want to get us too far off track here, but I thought it
Hmm.
was some interesting news, especially with us talking about movies on streaming platforms.
Right.
Well,
Hmm.
something to keep an eye on for sure, for sure.
Definitely.
So, all right, Mad Max. How were you first? And you don't have to talk about this movie in particular. Like you can talk about the franchise in general. Like how were you introduced to Mad Max?
Um, that's a good question. I, if I remember correctly, my grandmother loved to record movies on VHS, any movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if a movie was coming on, a VHS went in and then that thing went into the library, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yes.
And also, as people want to do, she's got her own favorite actors, and Mel Gibson was one of her, she liked Mel Gibson. And I
Yeah.
think I watched the first one maybe at her house. I really do remember doing that. But I think more recently, a more impactful memory of it is my dad and I watching them right before um, the new one came out. I don't think I'd seen it enough. Now, since Fury Road came out, I've gone back and watched them all a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I've realized how much I really enjoy that franchise.
Yeah.
But I guess originally I'd seen it a long time ago. I remember seeing it back then, but more recently, we're doing it again right now. We're rewatching all of them before
Nice.
Furiosa. So,
Very cool. Very cool. I it's funny you talk about the VHS. Like my grandfather passed away a few years ago, and my grandmother trying to like go through all of her all of the stuff, and my granddad used to do the same thing with movies, and I've got like several VHS back here. I think one's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and yeah,
Hmm.
it's fun to like. I don't have a VHS player, but like I'm gonna keep those just because it's kind of fun. But
Hmm.
um, I I was introduced to this movie, and I had no idea like what the Mad Max world was like
Right.
until this movie came out. And even then, like I was not an early adopter at all. I think I I swear this is a memory that I have, but I feel like at back in college, I want to say somebody's screen name at one point on Xbox or PlayStation was Do Fourier, and I just I had no idea what it was, but I was like, "Oh, okay, that's really unique and interesting." And then he's a character, and I was like, maybe one of our friends was like just really into good old Doof. I really don't remember, but I watched it several years after, but I enjoyed it like right off the bat. So, like I
Hmm.
said, late adopter to the Mad Max franchise, but it was good. I liked it, and I watch it not every year, but it's definitely one of my favorite action movies. So it's up there
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
So, hopping straight into some notes here. Just like production wise, like what were some things that stood out to you, or do you have any of those, like any thoughts or anything?
I think that production wise, I think this franchise to me is one of the rare ones where it really does feel like each entry has gotten better and better and better. And I
Hmm.
think it's most noticeable, I think, between one and two. But obviously there's a big jump in a lot of ways between Thunderdome and Fury Road. But obviously you know that like a lot of the stunt work is practical, um,
Which
which
is
is really,
awesome.
really impressive.
Yeah.
Um, was nominated for an Oscar for cinematography. It's beautifully shot, you know,
Hmm.
shot stunt work aside, like it's just shot really, really well. You
Yeah.
get like each section, like when they're in the swamp, when they're in the desert, when they're in um, each little area, and it has their own distinct feel. And
Hmm.
I appreciate that because I think post-apocalyptic movies can fall into kind of not a trap, but
Hmm.
it's always drab, it's always dreary, and I get it. It's a depressing time in humanity's
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
but
It's all
like
dark.
Mad Max is not that. It's color. There's a
Yeah.
lot of color, and I really do. I appreciate the kind of tone shift and not making it just like a wasteland. Well, a wasteland in color. It
Yeah.
is the wasteland, but you know, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, I think you hit on a lot of it. Incredibly shot. I was watching something earlier today on some of the practical effects, and they were showing like how the when the war boy was like jumping down from the huge vehicle to like with the two spears or whatever,
Hmm.
trying to like take it out, and they showed how that was done. And I was like, that's incredible, and that's a like a risky that's a risky move. That's something that was like if done incorrectly could have been really really dangerous, right?
Right. Right.
They really pulled no stops to make this a good movie.
Hmm.
One thing that I thought was cool too is like the storyboard itself took years. I didn't look and see how many, but they had like up to I think it's 3,500 panels,
Hmm.
and some of them like straight from like inspired by some of the comics and everything.
Yeah.
And they ended up using like 80% of them to help do the movie. Like this was a really really well planned out movie, and just I it you can tell. I think you can tell. You talked about the
Yeah.
cinematography.
Yeah. I think there was like 500 hours of footage too,
Yeah, yeah,
close to it.
I think they said it took somebody 3 months to get through it. I think it was the director's wife, I believe, if I'm not
I think
mistaken.
so, and I think she won an Oscar for the editing.
Yeah, well deserved. So,
So,
um, so moving away from, like, production side of things, the War Boys in general, just as an idea, I thought were just, like, wild. Like, it just but I guess knowing that you're gonna die and then following somebody like a Morton Joe, who just really kind of was like a tyrant,
mhm,
it kind of but just the way he was kind of able to like religiously inspire these dying people to go fight battles for him was it was it was pretty cool to just kind of look at and like try to understand because that's I think it's relatable in some way.
Hmm.
Like we've seen that kind of through different factions in our history, right? Like being
Hmm.
what comes from like the kamikazes come to mind, right?
Hmm.
Um, so and just side note, Morton Joe himself was just an amazing villain. Like I thought, very impressive and imposing, and
Hmm.
just a really really good character. So,
The actor that played him was the original villain in the first one.
which I thought that's awesome. I for
Hmm.
somebody, I mean, again, didn't that was totally lost on me, but I can only imagine it, like people who grew up watching it or watched the originals coming out, like that would I imagine it'd be like, oh my god, kind of moment. So,
Right. It was pretty cool.
um, I watched this movie, this last rewatch. I watched it with subtitles. I don't know if you've ever done that before with this
I've
movie.
not done that, but it kind of sounds unhinged. I love it.
There was like so much dialogue that I just like missed out on. Like there was one moment where when Max is like busting out and he's like hanging out on the crane trying to like escape,
Hmm.
and the one war boy who dies like screams yes, like he's like going to Valhalla, like he's earning his death there. I never caught that before, like never ever. And I know we kind of like did this earlier today
Hmm.
when
I
they're
think
going
it's
out
like
there.
this.
Oh, is it?
I think
I think you're right. I've been doing it wrong.
like that.
They're chanting V8 like that because it's a V8 engine.
God, I
Like
love everything about the Mad Max universe, man.
it's so cool, and then like it's incredible, incredible. And I think the V8 engine, kind of alluding to that, like that's power.
Hmm.
That's power in this universe. Power for Morton Joe. That I
Right.
think that was just a detail, and again, just a little something like I think unless if you just have really good ears and can pick stuff out, like you may miss. So
Hmm.
sometimes subtitles can be pretty cool. So I have a couple other notes here, Dan, but anything you wanted to talk about?
No, just and I was gonna save it for the end, but this also kind of feels, I guess, like a good as place as any to talk about it, you know. But I personally feel like this is one of the most, oh, how did I want to say it? This is one of the least talked about influential franchises, I think, in film and media. You know,
Mhm,
like everything, like you hear a lot of directors talk about the influence that like Road Warriors had on them. You know, the scene in the original one where Max tosses the saw to the guy at the end, and basically he has the choice to cut his arm or leg off or die in the explosion. You know, like the James Wan and Lee Wanell talk about that was the one of the bases for their movie,
hmm.
um,
Sounds intense.
which spawned an entire franchise of itself. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
and like you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't know the general meaning of the word like Thunderdome,
Mhm.
you know? Like
Yeah,
even if you've not seen Mad Max, like Thunderdome means a place just total chaos,
yeah.
and like even just the general aesthetic, like the leather, like everything's dirty, everything's piecemeal and things like that. Like that was like Mad Max. Like people forget how much that influenced post-apocalyptic stuff and even action and like vehicle stunts moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And I wasn't trying to steal stuff from the end, especially if that's gonna be your freshest take stuff, but you just kind of, just throwing it out there.
That was, but I was
We can
afraid I'd forget how I wanted to say. So it's like, let me just do it here.
alright, so we're gonna take that and put it at the end.
Yeah, if you could edit that, that'd
Editor,
be
can you
cool.
edit that out, please? Oh, wait, it's me. It's gonna stay right
Oh,
there because I
wait,
don't know how to
he's
do
the
it.
editor.
Yeah. Um, one like thing I thought was funny is the blind guy, the bad guy who goes blind, and he's like after gets shot,
Mm.
and they hold the flare in front of his face to test. He's like, light the flare, and it's like right there in front of him. Like, oof, that's
Yeah,
that would be a pretty like harrowing moment to go through.
right.
Like, I am blind. That would be insane.
Hmm.
So a couple questions before we start getting into like categories and awards and stuff like that. So, I just looked this up. So I was because I didn't know the answer. So I was curious why the War Boys were so pale, or why they appeared pale. Do you know the answer?
They're not. My assumption it would be because they're sick, um, or cover themselves with something purposely.
Your instincts were correct. So not necessarily because they were sick, but the second one. So because Immortan Joe is super sick. Like if you
Hmm.
look at him before he puts on the body armor and everything, he's got like the lesions and sores and everything all over his body. But before they do that, they're like putting powder on him. So I guess that was some kind of like healing substance. So the War Boys would wear like they would put on powder to essentially look like a Morton Joe. So that was their way of kind of like another way that they just followed their leader. So I
Hmm.
thought that was pretty cool. And then a question, and if they answered it, I missed it. But like, well, I guess I kind of understand it, and we're gonna get it in the next movie. But I still wrote it down. But why did Furiosa go against a Morton Joe? And I guess it was to get to the green place. But like, did he do something to her? I don't know. Like,
Yeah, well, he did something to her, and I think she was just trying to save the
save
women,
the women?
the
Yeah.
harem, because he
Like he's
definitely did something to them,
right. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
And she was trying to get to the green place anyway, so it's like, well, let me just take these. Let's just turn this into a full blown rescue operation.
Okay. All right. Maybe we just don't need to dive into that one too much. Because again, I think the answers will probably come.
I think the
Hopefully.
answer is he just sucks.
He does.
So let's get out of here.
So let's GTHO. Um, all right. Any other notes really quick before I hop into categories and awards?
Nope.
Cool, yeah. Number one, has our friend Dustin Robertson seen this movie?
No,
Absolutely not.
no.
There's no hope of him seeing this movie because it's out there.
It's a good movie and it's a good action movie, but it's a
Mhm.
weird action movie.
Yes. Yeah. I think when the premise of the movie is like a post-apocalyptic guys riding
I
on
think you lose
cars in the
Dustin right
desert,
there
it's
at post apocalyptic.
like, well, no. Let me watch Jack Reacher again.
You mean this doesn't star Macaulay Culkin? What do you mean he's not in this movie?
Is Tom Cruise the second co-star? Because I don't
Hmm.
all right. Yeah, no, there's no way. All right, Disneyfication. So, could this movie be made into a theme park attraction of some kind?
At Disney, no. Someplace else, yes,
Yeah, agreed.
for
Agreed.
sure.
But I think the opportunities are endless. Like I think you could do some really, really cool stuff
Right.
with this, with it, whether it be like a 3D, 4D attraction where you're like riding on one of the vehicles, or I thought it would be cool too, like because I thought the makeup was pretty well done. Like especially like you look at the Morton Joe, you look at like the War Boys and some, it's like the
And the
practical,
soundtrack. That soundtrack is something else.
literally all of it. Like I think you could do some behind the scenes, whether makeup, stunts, anything.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot to this movie that I think you could break down in some kind of attraction. So Universal, you hear us? Probably not.
No, worth a
No.
shot.
Maybe someday. Maybe
Right.
when we're famous, they'll go back and listen to the 10th episode of
They're
String
like,
Kings.
they're like, my God, those guys are right. That'd
They're
make a
really onto
sweet
something.
ride.
But at that point, there will be 15 other Mad Max movies, and they won't make it on this one. Um, so hot date award. Who you taking on a hot date?
I mean, I think it's Furiosa.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. Why?
she's a badass.
She is. Okay. All right. It's a good answer.
That's it. That's
All
the
right.
answer.
That's the answer. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. No, she'd be a good hang. I'd be afraid she'd try to like kill me or something. Just, but you're right. You're right. She does seem to have some issues with men in the movie, so like as threats. So I'd be a little anxious. about going to hang out with her, but I don't know. I went with the Splendid Angrahad. I don't think I pronounced that correctly, but that's oh my gosh, the pregnant lady in the harem.
Not Zoe Kravitz, is it? I know she's
No,
in it,
that's
but she's not the pregnant.
Rosie Huntington Whitley.
Okay.
So yeah, yep. I just and outside, like obviously, like she's very attractive, obviously,
Mhm.
but I think it's interesting. Like she's not really afraid. Like I think she boldly approaches Max with the water. Like
Mhm.
when he kind of first shows up, she's like, "All right, like I'm gonna do this, right?" She survives getting shot, and she unfortunately dies later on in the movie. Spoiler alert, everyone. Um,
You can't say spoiler alert after the spoiler.
well, this movie came out 9 years ago. I think we're okay, but you never know. But no, I just thought she was a really like cool character, and just willing to like. I thought she was one of the stronger of the five. Anyways,
I
so
also kind of feel like on a realistic note, logically, I
mhm.
wouldn't want to hang out with anybody in this movie.
That's that is fair. Yeah,
But if you're gonna make me pick,
let's be clear.
curiosity,
We don't want to put our lives at risk in
right?
the post-apocalyptic universe. So, unless I have to. All right. Bonesaw Award. What's the vibe? If you could insert a wrestler into this movie, where are you who is it and who are you putting in?
Well, this was tough.
Yeah.
Um, I would want God, what's his name? I would want Stone Cold Steve Austin as his son, Joe's son, the bald
Rictus
one.
Erectus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I replaced him too. Not that the actor or bodybuilder, weightlifter, competitor Nathan
Right.
Jones didn't do a good job, but yeah, I also wanted to replace him. But I didn't. I honestly I didn't choose a spoiler alert for everybody out there. I'm not really big into wrestling. So I pretty much every time have to kind of like search and be like, which of you guys look like you'd be good in this movie?
But
So
he is a wrestler though.
is he?
I think so.
Oh,
Let me look here.
Google didn't tell me that.
Yeah. Oh, he's an Australian. I was pretty sure. I was like, I think he is a wrestler.
Okay.
He's an
Well,
Australian one, but
yeah. Well, I haven't heard any. He's down under. I haven't heard of him. I want somebody up top.
uh,
That was a really lame joke.
he was in Mortal Kombat.
Was he really? The
Yeah.
new one?
Yeah.
What? How did I miss him? I'll have to go rewatch that sometime. Cool. Yeah, I think you could insert probably a lot of wrestlers into this movie just because it's again so wild, and that's kind of
Mhm.
like the theatrics of WWE.
Right. Like
Where
wrestlers feel like they're this feels like tailor made to insert multiple wrestlers into it.
100%. Yeah, it is. Again, this is
Macho Man Randy Savage as a Morton Joe.
That would be pretty cool.
Right?
That would be fun. I do know who Randy Savage is, so I'm not completely like clueless, but
Mhm.
just for the audience, I just need them to know that. All right, moving on. Trading places. So if you were to swap one actor or actress from history and insert them into this movie, who are you choosing, and where are you putting them?
Mm.
Full disclosure, I cheated on this one.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you want me to do mine first?
Yeah.
All right. So I didn't choose an actor. I chose a.
Full disclosure, I didn't do this category right.
Listen, it's our podcast. We can do what we want. We can pivot.
Mhm.
So I went with I'm putting in Kirk Hammett from Metallica into this movie as Doof Warrior.
Doof Warrior? Actually,
Yeah, man.
that's not bad.
Right? Because I
That's not
would.
bad at all.
Thank you. See, I cheated, but it was like a good thing. So,
Mhm.
like I was during the movie, again, because Doof Warrior is cemented in my mind is the only thing I knew about this movie before it came out. Um, I looked him up and I had never heard of this guy. I'm like, I want a big name guitarist just going hard. And the guy did pretty good, not gonna lie. And those are some of my like most favorite memorable scenes where Doof was just like,
You know that the whole rig works.
oh
Do
my
you know
gosh.
that?
Wait, what?
The whole rig works.
Like in real life?
Yeah, the amps, the guitar, the flamethrower, it's all workable.
I'm
Yeah.
changing my national treasure choice. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but yeah, I think a bigger name would have been just for some wow factor. I just thought it would have been cool. Like again, the guy
That's
didn't do
true.
a bad job, but I think if you'd been like, oh my gosh, that's Metallica's guitarist in there, that would have been sick. So
Hmm.
that's my choice. I'm sticking with it. I don't care what anybody says.
I'm gonna go with kind of a lame one because I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about this category. But I feel like Harrison Ford could have been a cool choice, a younger Harrison Ford for Max in this movie if you're going with somebody who's not Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think that's a lazy choice. I think Harrison Ford would have done really well,
Hmm.
especially since well, I'm going to save my Tom Hardy take for later.
You
Moving
know,
on.
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. Do you have something else to say?
No. Mm-mm.
Are you sure?
Zero. I don't zero things to say, sir.
Good. All right, moving on. All right, National Treasure. What item are you going to be taking from set?
Mine
What are you
mine
going
was
to commit
the
a felony?
whole Doof Warrior rig.
Okay, nice. That's Daniel. That's your what fourth vehicle you're stealing? I love it.
Yeah, I love
You're gonna
vehicles.
need a bigger garage.
Yeah.
I like that. It is a really cool thing, and I had no idea that actually worked. That's dope.
Mhm.
Which I guess it makes sense. All the practical effects and everything. So, I'm gonna go a little bit more specific. I want Doof's guitar because it doubles as a flamethrower. Like, can you imagine
A
having
real working flamethrower.
that would be dangerous in the household. Like,
I
have to put that one behind a case.
promise there's other characters besides Doof Warrior. I promise.
Are you
I
sure?
promise there is a guy named Max in this movie. I swear.
Oh, I thought about a Morton Joe's armor. I thought that was pretty cool.
It
Like
kind of
the
reminded me of Vader when they were putting it on him.
yeah,
But like
I like
trash
that.
Vader, like garbage
Mm,
Vader.
great value, great value, Vader.
We have Darth Vader at home.
Oh, that's funny. All right, Goat Award. Who do you think? What best performance in the movie? Favorite part of the movie? What's your take here?
Um, I think Furiosa would be my go-to for that one,
Okay,
or Nicholas Holt as the War Boy.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to make a case for each, or like
No, I do not.
any further questions?
I feel like they explain themselves. Furiosa doesn't have a hand, but works a sniper rifle incredibly well. And
Under
okay,
that reasoning, how
and
can
in
you
a
argue
lot
against
of ways, I will say this. I think it was written this way,
it? Hmm.
you know, but it's not easy to upstage Max in a Mad Max movie. But the reality is this was more well, I don't even know if it was by design or not, but like the fact that she played it that well made it kind of the focal point of the film, you know,
Yeah,
her journey, I guess.
yeah. So, and I'm not gonna disagree with you. I think she did really well, but I'm gonna choose your second option because I think Nicholas Holt as Nux is a. I feel like this is almost his movie, in a way, like, just because of the themes that he kind of embodied. Like, if you look at his character progression from, hope is a big one for him, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
he kinda starts the movie, his hope is in really in death, like, live, we die, we live again, right? You know, that's what he's saying. Like he wants to die for Morton Joe, but just because he thinks he's gonna get like, you know, another life or
Mm-hmm.
live on in Valhalla. But then like almost dies in a way after the storm because like, you know, he fails. Like Mad Max
Mm-hmm.
kind of like stops him from lighting the flare in the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And then finds almost a new life there, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, just kind of being like in his relationship with, um, oh my gosh, what's her name? Da, 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 da. Oh man, it's one of the other girl, Capable, the redhead, where you know, like the whole scene where they're like just kind of chilling, like, and she's just kind of talking to him, and he's like sharing about like his tumors and all of that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I think that's almost you know, he becomes a more relatable character and more like way deeper. And I think the movie is kind of driven by him too. Like even from when he's like when they're driving out in the war rig and he looks off to the side, he thinks Morton Joe sees him and he's like, all right, I got to drive forward. And like if that doesn't happen, like Max maybe doesn't even get to Furiosa, right? Like there's a lot of things that happen, I think, that are driven by Nux's character. So, but I just thought it was cool. That's my thought.
It is.
Cool. All right. Freshest take. What you got?
Well, I guess I gave it earlier, but I can say it again. It's just, I think this is a very underappreciated.
Yeah.
I think it got more popular. And it may be more popular than I am giving it credit for. And
Hmm.
obviously, you know what Mad Max is, but a lot of my friends that watch movies have only seen one, and it's Fury Road.
I'm the friend.
Yeah, and it's, oh, good God.
Are we
You know,
gonna?
but
I'm gonna
I
leave the
think
studio
this
now.
is a really important franchise in its genre, and even as a whole, as a
Hmm.
movie, and like as a whole.
For sure.
Um, and Fury Road just continued that. It just kept up in the ante. And if you've seen the others, it's just a gradual progression, and until you
Hmm.
get to Fury Road, and it's one of the best modern action movies we've seen.
Maybe even one of the best action movies of all time. I mean, it's
I
hard to beat some of the '80s classics, but like it's up there.
I would put it up against a lot of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Which I think we need to talk about those in a later pod, but that's the future. Um, I have two freshest takes. One I don't have a lot on, but I just think Tom Hardy might be bad at acting. Like this this is hot. This is a hot take as well
Oof.
as a fresh take. Because like this whole movie, he says like four things. He grunts through the whole movie. Like I don't know. It's just and maybe I haven't seen the other ones. I haven't seen Mel Gibson's take on the character. Um, but he just doesn't there's very
Well,
little
I'll give you
dialogue.
another spoiler. He doesn't talk much at all.
Really?
Yeah.
That's all right, then never mind. All right, my actual one then. But okay, but quick on Hardy though. Like he apparently was like a pain to deal with in this movie, and like even had to come out afterwards and like apologize to the director for like how he was acting and treating
Hmm.
everybody. It's like even if you're not like big into a movie, like I don't know, just don't be a jerk. So I don't know. That's my thought. Um, my actual freshest take, though, is that you can, in fact, make a movie with a very important car chase scene. Because I feel like car chase scenes get like in action movies, like they all have one, and a lot of times it's just like stuff blowing up, and like, oh, okay, this is just something that has to happen. But this is incredibly well done. Like you're talking about like impact of an action movie on a genre, like that. This whole movie is a car chase, which
Hmm.
is 2 hours of like just cars moving for the most part. I mean, there's some, you know, that it's not, but That's awesome, and it takes a staple from the action genre and makes it something different. And I think they did it super well. So that's my freshest take.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Thanks.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, pal. All right. That's all I've got as far as notes and everything. Any other like parting thoughts on the movie? No,
No, I love the movie.
it's really good.
I've seen it.
Like.
I've watched it. It's actually one of the movies that I've rewatched. I don't rewatch just a ton of movies because my to be watched list is mega long,
Mhm.
but this is one of the ones that like I revisit pretty regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think anybody who enjoys action movies should check this one out if you haven't already. So,
Mm.
but awesome. All right. As always, appreciate all the fans tuning in. Appreciate y'all just interacting with us on socials, on Spotify, YouTube, wherever it may be. I appreciate y'all tuning in. And would love to continue for you guys to do so. So if there's again something particular that you guys want us to talk about, or maybe even a movie you want us to cover, like we like to hear recommendations, and definitely keep them in mind. So that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Now this.
Now this is podcasting. You ruined it. I tried to set it up for you. I even did the like